It's that time of year again, guys. Chicago Bears football is officially back. Ben Johnson begins his time coaching the Chicago Bears with a Monday night showdown against the Minnesota Vikings. Can the Chicago Bears win this game? Watch this video to hear my thoughts. What's going on, guys? I'm back with another Chicago Bears pregame prediction video, which I'll be doing before every single Bears game this year, regular season and postseason as well. Fingers crossed. But I'm so happy to be back doing these videos for you guys. I've been doing it for the past 7 years now. That's crazy to think it's been 7 years of doing these videos. And in these videos, I'll just be going through the matchup, talking about what I'm looking out for, talking about who I think is going to win the game, key storylines as well. So it's going to be basically a preview of each game. And if you are the Chicago Bears, you cannot ask for a better opportunity than they have in this game. They're playing on Monday Night Football in front of the whole country on primetime TV in week 1. There's going to be very high viewership. It's going to be at Soldier Field, so the crowd is going to be behind them. It's going to be a loud and energetic crowd, hopefully the entire night. And it's Ben Johnson's debut as a head football coach in this league, along with a lot of new additions that the Bears made. It's going to be their debut. It's going to be Caleb's first game in year 2. So it's just a insane opportunity the Chicago Bears have in front of themselves. And I don't want to call it a must win because it's only week 1. It's a very long season. No matter what happens in this game, there's still 16 more games to look forward to. But in my eyes, guys, the Chicago Bears need to go out here and protect home field and win this damn game because they have a very difficult schedule this year, okay? At least according to last year's winning percentage, they have the second hardest schedule in the NFL. So next week we got the Detroit Lions in Detroit. That's going to be a really tough game. You already know the Lions crowd is going to be booing Ben Johnson the entire game. The players are going to be extra motivated too. So if you want to avoid a potential 0-2 start, and obviously I'm not trying to say we can't beat the Lions, but if you lose this game against the Vikings, it's just going to make things really difficult for the Bears going forward because of how tough the schedule is. Like, you have to win these home games, especially against a basically rookie quarterback in JJ McCarthy. And talking about JJ McCarthy, he is from the Chicago area, obviously, so he's returning home to play against his hometown team. That's for sure going to be a fascinating storyline. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of friends and family attending this game. So just a lot of cool storylines to watch in this game. Obviously Ben Johnson's first game coaching. Kevin O'Connell is another bright young offensive mind. He won Coach of the Year last year, one of the best coaches in all of football. So it's going to be a very tough matchup for the Chicago Bears. Definitely not a pushover in week 1. Fall is here, and even though the air is getting a little bit crisper, if you're like many guys, you're probably still out there working hard in the yard, or maybe doing your workouts, or maybe just going out and about. Sometimes the sweat can still creep up on you even in the fall. And if you guys want to be smelling good this football season, I'd highly recommend using Mando, the sponsor of today's video. Mando's deodorant plus sweat controls for real hard-working guys, formulated to stop odor before it starts, and it doesn't mask odor with overwhelming fragrance, so you can tackle anything from the job site to tailgating with confidence. Don't mask it, Mando it. And they actually sent me a bunch of products to try out. So they sent me the stick deodorant, they sent me the spray, they sent me this invisible cream, and also the bourbon leather acidified body wash. And from using these products for a couple months now, I would highly recommend them. Okay, I don't advertise products on my channel if I don't use them myself, and I've been using Mando for many months now, and it keeps me smelling really good throughout my workouts, while I'm editing videos, while I'm out and about. It makes you smell really good and really fresh. So highly would recommend. If you guys want a discount for new customers, if you go to shopmando.com, I actually have an exclusive promo code. So if you use code DWCP at shopmando.com, you get 20% off your first order and free shipping as well. A fantastic promotion for some new customers. And one thing I would recommend is a starter pack. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream 2 deodorant, 2 free products of your choice as well. For example, the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, which I really like to use as well. And of course, free shipping as well. So again, go to shopmando.com, use code DWCP for 20% off site-wide your first purchase and free shipping as well. Let's break down the matchup, talking about the Vikings offense first. first of all, and I won't be talking about stats at this point because we're just judging based on last year's stats, and those really have no relation to this year. So I'll just be going through the key additions, the key departures, and key storylines on both the offense and the defense. And talking about the Vikings offense additions, so they made moves on the interior offensive line. They added Will Fries, they added Ryan Kelly. They also traded for Adam Thielen, former Minnesota Vikings, coming over from the Panthers. He's getting pretty up there in age, but he's still, a decent receiver 3, receiver 4 option. They also drafted Donovan Jackson, guard, and they traded for running back Jordan Mason from the San Francisco 49ers. So definitely added some good offensive line talent. As for the key departures, they lost Sam Darnold to the Seattle Seahawks, and they also lost guard Dalton Risner. So the big change here is going to be at quarterback, obviously going from Sam Darnold to basically a rookie quarterback in JJ McCarthy. I wasn't the biggest fan of Sam Darnold. I think a lot of his success last year had to do with Kevin O'Connell coaching him up, but it's still going to be a massive jump going from a veteran quarterback in Sam Darnold who had experience already in the NFL going to a very young, inexperienced quarterback in JJ McCarthy. And that is going to be the massive X factor in this game because JJ McCarthy has not played NFL football yet in the regular season. I don't know what to expect out of him. He could be very good. He could be very bad. He could be very mediocre. If you go back and watch his college tape, he played in a very run-heavy offense at Michigan. He wasn't asked to carry the team on his back in terms of throwing down the field, but he did have a handful of very good throws, in the middle of the field. He has a nice release. He can definitely run a NFL offense, and there's a lot to like in his athleticism too. Okay, he can definitely get outside and run a little bit too. He's not, immobile by any means. But again, I just don't know what to expect out of him. Is he gonna take a while to adjust to the speed of the NFL game, or is he gonna, come out guns blazing week 1 and just attack all areas of the field and be a really good quarterback? That is the big unknown in this game. If JJ McCarthy's rattled early and it seems like he's not ready, for the NFL just yet, then that's going to change this game and make it a much easier game for the Chicago Bears. But again, Kevin O'Connell is such a good, schemer and play caller where even if JJ McCarthy is not at his best right now, the surrounding weapons are really going to help him a lot. And talking about those in this game, Jordan Addison is not going to play due to a suspension. So we got a little bit lucky not having to face Jordan Addison, one of the best receiver number 2s in the NFL. But the Vikings still have a crap ton of weapons. They have Justin Jefferson, the best receiver probably in all of football. He's always a threat to go off for 150, 200 receiving yards. They added Adam Thielen in the offseason, who he's getting up there in age, but he can still go over the middle and make a big time catch. He's not going to wow you with his athleticism, but he could be a reliable veteran option. They're expecting big things out of Naylor. TJ Hawkinson is there. Aaron Jones is there at the running back spot. Aaron Jones is a guy that's killed the Chicago Bears during his career, especially with the Green Bay Packers. And he's, here with the Minnesota Vikings. We still have to face him twice a year, which sucks. So the Vikings are not short in weapons. Like Justin Jefferson especially scares me the most in this matchup because we're not sure of the status of Jalen Johnson at this point in time. But JJ has more than enough weapons to work with and, have success with in this game. And if you look at the Vikings offensive line, that is another thing that scares me because it's one of the league's best offensive lines. I know they redid their entire interior. They added Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, and drafted Donovan Jackson, a rookie. So that's a place where maybe they're going to have to gel a little bit. But if you look at their tackles, Christian Darrisaw is one of the best left tackles in all of football. They got Brian O'Neill on the right side. He's also more than adequate. He's pretty good right tackle. So, it's going to be an offensive line that probably is going to give JJ McCarthy time to throw the football and be pretty good in the run game. And that's why a rookie quarterback, well, not rookie, but second-year quarterback in JJ McCarthy could have success this year. It's because the surrounding supporting cast is so good around this young QB. I mean, the Vikings have much more proven talent on the offense than the Chicago Bears do on their offensive side of the football. So, hopefully the Bears defense can slow them down, but it's definitely a lot of scary pieces on the Vikings offense. The big X factor being JJ McCarthy. Talking about the Vikings defense then, talking about their key additions first of all. So they added a lot of talent on the defensive line. They signed Jonathan Allen at defensive tackle. They signed Javon Hargrave at defensive tackle as well. In the secondary, they added Byron Murphy and Isaiah Rodgers. And looking at the key departures, they lost Harrison Phillips, interior defensive lineman, and they also lost Patrick Jones, edge rushers. So All in all, I'd say they got better on defense. I mean, to add Jonathan Allen at the big contract, they added him at. They're expecting big things out of him. And to get Javon Hargrave, who's coming off, a pretty bad year with the Niners, he didn't really do that much last year. He's still, a threat to rebound and have a pretty good season. I mean, this Vikings defensive line does scare me a good amount. Okay, they have so much talent on this defensive line, which I just question. Hopefully the Chicago Bears offensive line can match up against this defensive line. They got Jonathan Greenard, who had 11 sacks last year. They got Andrew Van Ginkel, who's so annoying to have to face. I mean, he had 12 sacks last year. And then to add Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, they still got Dallas Turner, who wasn't really good last year, but maybe he takes a year 2 jump. A lot of big time talent on the Vikings front seven and defensive line. And having a defensive coordinator in Brian Flores, who's one of the best defensive minds in the game, he is going to get the most out of these guys. And we know how much Brian Flores loves to blitz. Okay, his blitz rate is one of the highest in all of football. He's an aggressive minded defensive coordinator. So Caleb and the Bears offense can expect a lot of, blitz packages, exotic looks in this game that are really going to test, if Caleb is took a step up in year 2 and if the offensive line is better in year 2. The big question mark in the Vikings defense, though, is their secondary, because their secondary talent is very, very lacking. Okay, their cornerback room is probably one of the bottom 10 in all of football. If you look at their safeties, they got Harrison Smith there, who's been with them for a long time, but he's getting way up there in age. He's definitely not as athletic as he used to be. So where you can attack this Vikings defense is definitely in the secondary. If you can just hold up in pass protection against this pretty good defensive line, guys are going to get open down the field because they just don't have the elite talent in the secondary required to cover guys like DJ Moore, like Roma Dunze, like Luther Burden even. I know he's a rookie, but he could have somewhat of an impact in this game. Olamide Zaccheaus, the Bears receiver 3 at this point in time, he could also go off in this game because the Vikings just don't have the secondary to cover all these Bears weapons, but they could still succeed against the Chicago Bears if the Bears don't hold up in pass protection. So that's the biggest storyline I feel like in this game. Talking about the Chicago Bears offense now, let's talk about their key additions. So they traded for guard Joe Thuney, they traded for guard Jonah Jackson, they also signed center Drew Dalman, and they drafted Colson Loveland, tight end, and receiver Luther Burden. Those are probably the biggest additions. And going to the key departures, they lost receiver Keenan Allen and Tevin Jenkins, offensive lineman, in the offseason. So I would say they definitely added a lot more than they lost to replace their interior offensive line, with really good players. Okay, Drew Dalman was one of the best centers available, definitely the best center available actually in free agency this year. Joe Thuney is one of the best guards in all of football. Jonah Jackson was coming off an injured year, but last time he was healthy, he was pretty solid. I mean, the Bears basically redid most of their offensive line. They added 2 key playmakers in Colson Loveland and Luther Burden, 2 really talented receiving options that could make a big impact in the Bears receiving game, passing game this season. So I definitely say they added a lot more than they lost. And the big storyline, this entire season, especially in this game, is going to be how does Ben Johnson make Caleb Williams' life easier in this offense? We don't know what to expect out of Ben Johnson either at this point in time. Sure, we saw his offense with the Detroit Lions, but Ben Johnson himself said that this offense in Chicago is not going to look exactly the same as what he was running in Detroit because the personnel is vastly different. I mean, Caleb is a very different quarterback than Jared Goff. The Bears offensive line for sure is not as proven as the Lions offensive line was, and I would say the Bears receiving core is better than the Lions receiving core was. So there's just key differences that you have to account for. So I just want to see, what is he going to do in this game? Is Caleb going to be on the move with some bootlegs, with some play action? Is it going to be a short and quick passing game? Are we going to attempt many deep shots down the field? How is he going to get Caleb Williams comfortable in this offense? That's going to be a massive storyline. And another one is just Caleb Williams' progression himself. How does Caleb Williams look in year 2? He's entering a pivotal year 2 in which the expectations are sky high. Bears fans want him to be the first 4K yard passer in Chicago Bears history, and he does have the weapons to accomplish just that. So with how highly he was drafted last year, with all the hype around him, we're expecting a big jump out of Caleb Williams in year 2 in terms of getting better playing in the pocket, getting better playing in structure. being more accurate down the football field, taking less sacks. These are things I want to see Caleb show his growth in this game. And obviously, I'm not going to be expecting perfection out of him. There are going to be mistakes that he makes. I don't expect the offense to be fully up and running until at least a month into the season. So, I'm going to give him a lot of grace for sure, but we need to see him make enough plays for the Chicago Bears to win this game. Okay, we can't be taking big time sacks. We can't be having a situation in which Caleb gets sacked 5 or 6 times, because that is exactly how you lose football games. So, hopefully we see growth out of Caleb. And, talking about the weapons a little bit, like, again, guys, the Bears are stacked in terms of weapons. They got DJ Moore, a receiver 1 in this league, in my opinion. They got Roma Dunsley, who's going to hopefully take a step up in year 2. He was drafted so highly last year, has so much raw potential. They added Olamide Zaccheaus, a fantastic receiver number 3. We saw him make big time plays in the preseason and in training camp. They drafted Luther Burden, who could have been a first-round receiver. They have Cole Kmet here still to be a receiving option. They drafted Colston Loveland, one of the best receiving options in all of college football the last couple of years. So there are no shortage of weapons in the Chicago Bears offense. Guys are going to get open in different areas of the field. Like, it's just up to Ben Johnson to get Caleb Williams comfortable in this offense and get him into some sort of a rhythm. Last year, Caleb Williams rarely had any sort of rhythm. We would go 1 step forward and then take 2 steps back. We cannot do that this year. So I want to see Ben Johnson scheming up plays where Caleb is just getting the ball out quick, and maybe a 2-yard dump off here that leads to a 5-6 yard play after that, and then 10-yard pass down the field, 20-yard bomb down the field. Like, we need to stack positive plays on top of each other, and that's going to happen because the Bears receivers are going to get open against the secondary. So we need to let the receiving talent shine in this game. The Bears' run game is a massive question mark entering this year, though. They had one of the worst run games in all of football. So this year, I want to see if Ben Johnson's new scheme can encourage more production out of these running backs. Hopefully, the offensive line upgrades we made also let us run on the inside. Our inside running plays were just getting stuffed at astronomically high rates last season, partly due to bad blocking and bad scheming. But Swift has to be better. Okay, Roshan Johnson, if he plays, he has to be better. Kyle Manungai, the rookie, maybe might get some carries in this game as well. So I really want to see the Bears, start the season off on a good note in terms of the run game. Okay, we need a much better run game this season if we want to have a successful offense in 2025. Talking about the Chicago Bears defense then, talking about the key additions, we added defensive end Dayo Odengbo, we added defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, we drafted Shamar Turner, another defensive tackle. And then talking about the key departures, the big one is just DeMarcus Walker, but besides that, we didn't really lose any starters or anybody big in the offseason. So definitely got better, I would say, in terms of additions compared to departures. But the big question mark with the Bears defense is, can we generate enough pass rush? That is the area of the team where I'm worried about the most, because if you truly want to be a playoff level team, you need to have a good pass rush. You need to get after the quarterback. And on the other side of Montez Sweat, there's just a big question mark. Okay, I'm not sure if Dayo Odengbo is going to be good enough to be the edge 2 on this team. There is a world in which he could be, because he was pretty solid last year, right? Like, he had a good amount of pressures. A season before last year, he had a good amount of sacks as well. So it's totally possible Dayo shuts us all up and has a good opening game, a good season. But I just don't know. Okay, that's a big unknown. Montez Sweat is pretty good, but besides for him, who's going to get after the quarterback? I think a lot of it's going to come from the interior, because we have guys on the inside like Javon Dexter, like Grady Jarrett, like, Shamar Turner, hopefully he can be a somewhat of an impactful rookie. Like, we have guys on the inside that can really push the pocket and generate the interior pass rush. It's up to the outside guys to really clean that up and close in on the quarterback. So, I wouldn't say the Bears defensive line is completely devoid of talent. We just lack the true top end talent that maybe a team like the Vikings have, maybe a team like the Packers now have in Micah Parsons. So, that worries me a little bit, that if the Bears lose this game, that's probably going to be a big reason why, if we just cannot generate any sort of pass rush. And there are some question marks in the secondary too at this point in time, only because we're not sure of the status of Jalen Johnson. I'm recording this video on Monday evening, and at this point in time, we don't know if he's going to practice this week. If Jalen does not play, that's going to be a massive, massive loss, because he is the only guy that can remotely cover Justin Jefferson. The other guys in the secondary just don't have the talent to do that. I mean, Kyler Gordon is a fantastic nickel cornerback. Maybe he could be on Justin Jefferson here and there, but it would be a big boost if Jalen does play in this game because he could at least help slow down Justin Jefferson. And if you look at the CB2 spot, that's also a big unknown. I'm assuming Tyreek Stevenson is going to start there. He had a rough year 2 last year, but maybe he bounces back and has a good third season for the Chicago Bears. They lost Terrell Smith for the season, so that's a big blow. That sucks. But putting all the doom and gloom aside, there is also reason to be optimistic about the secondary because, again, we have a guy like Kyler Gordon who is pretty good. We have Jaquan Brisker back at safety. That's going to be a key addition. He was out for the majority of last year due to a bad concussion. He's a very talented safety, good playmaker as well. Got Kevin Byard back there too. And, hopefully Tyreek can take that year 3 jump. But it is possible that we see a good secondary performance out of the Chicago Bears, even without Jalen Johnson. But if we get Jalen back, obviously that's going to help a great deal. With all that being said, let me get to my 3 keys to Bears victory. How can the Chicago Bears go out and beat the Vikings at home? And key number 1 is going to be to throw heavy pressure at JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy is basically a rookie quarterback, okay? He's never seen live NFL defenses in a regular season game that actually matters, so you need to make life as difficult as possible on this young quarterback. Young quarterbacks often struggle with seeing pressure, with identifying blitzers, and JJ is a pretty smart quarterback, but he still has not seen NFL defenses like what Dennis Allen has coached up. I mean, Dennis Allen has been a DC in the NFL for such a long time. He's been a damn good one. So I'm expecting some nice blitz packages, being creative with the pressure and just throwing a lot of heat towards JJ and seeing if he can handle that heat and hopefully forcing him into making some pretty bad throws that turn into interceptions. Key number 2 then is going to be to have quick, decisive throws from Caleb Williams. Some of this is going to be due to coaching. Hopefully Ben Johnson gets, plays in here that get the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands a lot faster because the Vikings have such a talented pass rush, such a good defensive line. I mean, their DL could overwhelm our offensive line if we don't, get these quick passes going. So, hopefully on these slants, on these out routes, on these maybe dump off passes, we can just get the ball out of Caleb's hands quick, and Caleb has to be quick and decisive with these throws. He cannot hesitate too much, otherwise the pass rush is going to close in on him. So hopefully Caleb can do that. And the key number 3 is going to be to let these wide receivers win their matchups. I already talked about this a little bit earlier, but the Bears receivers will get open in this game, and Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson have to take advantage of that fact. I need to see a successful passing attack in this game. Obviously, hopefully the run game works out too, but especially against a weaker secondary and a defensive line that's pretty good at stopping the run, like we need to be able to hit these shots down the field. We need to be able to have a successful passing attack in this one, and our receivers are going to get open against the secondary. I can guarantee they're going to get open. We just need Caleb to hit the open guys and Ben Johnson to scheme up the right plays against these defensive looks. But with all that being said, let me get to my score prediction. Who do I think is going to win this game? And guys, I have the Chicago Bears going into Soldier Field on Monday Night Football in front of the whole country, beating the Vikings by a score of 21-20. I do think it's going to be an extremely close game and pretty low scoring because it is the first game of the NFL season. Okay, both sides are going to be a little bit sloppy on offense. The Vikings have a young, inexperienced quarterback. The Bears have a quarterback in year 2 that's going to be in a brand new offense and with new pieces. So there's going to be a lot of sloppiness and ugly play by the offenses on both sides, I feel like. But being at home and with the energy surrounding Ben Johnson, I think the Chicago Bears can ride that energy to a victory. Being at home matters a great deal in this game because with 2 young quarterbacks going at it, Caleb Williams having the crowd to his advantage, JJ McCarthy having to go up against a loud crowd, and an experienced defensive coordinator in Dennis Allen is going to be throwing a lot of pressure his way. I think that's going to be the difference in this game. The Vikings do have better trenches, so that's the one way the Chicago Bears could lose this game because the Vikings have better offensive line, better defensive line, but Bears have the edge at quarterback in my opinion. I mean, we haven't seen JJ McCarthy ever play meaningful NFL football just yet, so we don't know what to expect out of him. Caleb, at least last year, had some really good moments against the same Minnesota Vikings team. I mean, he passed for over 330 yards in the first game against the Vikings. And with Ben Johnson, with an upgraded offensive line, with an upgraded receiving core as well, and especially, talking about Ben Johnson, I mean, Ben Johnson's put up so many points against Brian Flores' defenses. I don't expect him to put up a lot of points in the first game because it is just the first game with a young quarterback. It's going to take a little bit of time for this offense to gel, but I do expect the Bears offense to score just enough points to sneak by in a close victory. And talking about the Bears defense, I do think they can force JJ McCarthy into making a lot of mistakes because your first game in the NFL rarely goes well. Quarterbacks need time to develop. Caleb had a horrible first game last year. So, against a Bears secondary that does have a good amount of playmakers on it, I do think we get our hands on the ball for a couple turnovers. And as for my offensive MVP of this game, I'm going to be picking Rome Odunze. I think he scores the first touchdown of the season for the Chicago Bears. Has a pretty good game going up against the Vikings CB2. I think he gets 100 receiving yards in this game and a receiving touchdown. Talking about the defense MVP then, I'm going to be picking Kyler Gordon. I think Kyler Gordon gets an interception. He's probably going to be asked to cover Justin Jefferson here and there if Jalen is not playing in this game. So I think Kyler Gordon gets a couple big time tackles, maybe some PBUs, and gets his hands on the ball for an interception. But leave your comments down below. What do you guys think is going to happen in this game? With it being the first game, obviously I'm going to be optimistic. It's hard not to be optimistic entering a new season. Now, if the Bears offense and defense just completely suck and we get blown out in this game, that's going to change my outlook for this season for sure. But being week one, I'm going to try to be optimistic. Hopefully, Ben Johnson can start his Bears coaching career out with the win. Hopefully, Caleb Williams can score a good amount of points. And hopefully, we can give the crowd at Soldier Field a victory. Leave your comments down below. I'll be back with a reaction video on Monday night. As always, bear down.